students to Creekside Bible. I just want you to know before we get started that I've been praying for you, and I know this is a little different. Times are a little bit different, some crisis. God is still good. He's good all the time. And seriously, if there's anything that I can be praying for you specifically, you're welcome to put that on the LMS Bible wall, or if you want to get a little bit more specific, you can email me. Last Friday, when Mr. Knox met with the whole school in the assembly before we got out, he made this statement, this quote. He said, "Discipline yourselves so others do not have to." And so I wanted Mr. Knox to join me today and just kind of talk about that quote, that statement. So I'm going to ask him a few questions, and we're just going to kind of talk through this. So I hope you enjoy that today. So Mr. Knox, you made that statement, and I just wanted you to explain to the students where you first heard that statement, and just briefly, what does it mean to you?
Right. When you sent me over some questions here, and this is what I would tell the students, I was trying to go back through and figure out, where did I first hear this? And the more I looked into it, I realized really how blessed I've been. I could not pinpoint one person that has told me this, but multiple people. I've been blessed. I've had great coaches, teachers, youth pastors, and most importantly, I've had great parents. And my parents lived this out. And no was a word that I heard often in my home. And so from that standpoint of just not really getting what I want, having coaches that says, if you want to be great, you better get up here on your own because I'm not going to be here every day. And somewhere along the line there was probably a coach that said, here's what you need to do, Knox. You need to discipline yourself so others do not have to. I don't have the time to continually discipline you, but you can discipline yourself, and you can do it on a daily basis. So all I know this is I've been blessed. I've had people that told me truth in my life. I have people that have never really just let me get away with something. They've always held me accountable. I have that in my life now. I have people like you, and I have people that continually are challenging me and saying, Rodney, discipline yourself so others do not have to.
The next question I have is, if you could think of a Bible character, and I know there's, you can give a couple, but if you could think of a Bible character that best fits that quote, discipline yourself so others don't have to, who would come to mind?
Well, I'm going to answer this, and then I'm going to come back to you as well, because we had a really good talk about this even this morning. As I was going through this question, I thought about Moses and the discipline that he had, and you begin to read him and everything that was on him. But he had a little chink in his armor there at times, because he had a little anger problem, it seemed like at times, one that we may all have. And then I went into Joshua, and I went and thought about Nehemiah. But you made a comment this morning about Joseph, and so what I'd like to do is I'm going to give that back to you, because your answer on Joseph really was spot on as to what Bible character best lives this out.
Yeah, I was thinking about this when I sent the question, and Joseph was the first person that came to my mind. And really, especially to my seniors, he's almost like a college student, even though he didn't willingly leave. But everywhere he went, he quickly rose to the top, and it wasn't because of what he looked like, and it wasn't because of who he knew. It was because he worked hard. Potiphar looked at him and he said, "Man, you're doing things right." He disciplined. He gave him responsibility. Then the prison, and then finally, Pharaoh, and he became second in command. And the only way that you can do that is, yes, trusting in God, but you got to have the character that really says, "I'm disciplined to do whatever in any circumstance." And that's kind of where we find ourselves right now. So,
and you mentioned this morning. Joseph ran from sin. I mean, he ran. When most, I think, people, given the circumstance, they might have stayed right there. They might have fallen into sin. And Joseph ran. And discipline to run from something. Wow, man, that was a great point you made this morning on that. And I thought that was a great way to describe or who best lives out this quote.
Let me ask you this. Why do you think that disciplining ourselves as people, but specifically students, why do you think it is so difficult to discipline ourselves?
Part of it is, I think one of the words that was mentioned as I was talking to another staff member here is, because you have to be intentional. I mean, you really have to be intentional to say, this is what I want. If it's not what you want, you're never going to have it. You're going to live your life allowing everyone else to have to discipline you. There's never a moment where all of a sudden you're disciplining yourself. It's, hey, do this. Then someone comes back and has to give you the next step. Disciplining yourself is intentional. And here's the other issue is, it's every day. It's waking up in the morning going, I'll be intentional about it today. I think planning, and there's a lot of people who are not planners. And so when you're not a planner, then what are you disciplining yourself for? Organization, planning. But the word, I think, has to come back to this. You must be intentional and then decide, this is what I want for my life.
Yeah. And I also, and you can address this as I say this, but many times we're disciplined on the things that we have passion for. And so if someone loves a sport, it's easy for them to go and be disciplined. But then when it comes to school or it comes to work, the discipline goes out the window. But really, that is the point, is discipline yourself in the areas that really are difficult. You don't really have a passion for.
Right. What I have found is, you're correct on that, is they can have some discipline in those areas. Man, I love this sport. I'm passionate about it. I'm going to discipline myself. Something goes wrong. First thing, maybe I quit. Look, maybe I go off on someone. Maybe I get my first technical, this, that, no. Why? Because truly, did you have the discipline that you need? Because we've seen it throughout your life in this. Discipline yourself in the areas of homework for this purpose. Because when the going gets tough and what the passion is, man, you've did it in something tough over here. And it's a character trait that has to be through all areas of your life. Again, intentional, but it's tough to do.
Yeah. So last question. Right now, what do you think the students can do specifically to discipline themselves?
So what I do to discipline myself, and it is one of the areas that I find if I do not discipline myself in this area, it seems like everything else is off that day. And it's this. You want to discipline yourself, be intentional about beating the clock on a daily basis. And what I mean by that is, if you're someone, listen, maybe it's easy to get up at 6 in the morning, then get up at 5:30. If it's easy to get up at 7, then pick a number in there. For me, 5:30 in the morning, it's difficult. But the discipline of getting up at 5:30 and doing this piece right here, it's 30 minutes, praying, reading. It's just spending time with God, because really, here's the deal. Without God, I'm not going to discipline myself that day. I'm not going to be the one that's running from it. Beat the clock. That's your first victory of the day, is beat the clock. Get out of bed. Do something different than anyone else would do. Because here's the thing, when you wake up in the morning, getting out of bed is one of the hardest things that you will do all day. Beat the clock. Have a plan.
Discipline yourself so no one else has to.